booty series here. We're gonna start though by warming up your core. I'm gonna have Grant put his feet underneath his safety strap and his legs are gonna bend. Good, and if you don't have anything that has a strap like that at home, just put your feet underneath a piece of furniture, have somebody hold your feet, or you could also put some hand weights down on your feet as well, something that's gonna help create a little heaviness right around the feet. And then from here, you're just gonna extend your arms up. We'll keep your legs bent, keep your pelvis still, keep your legs still, and we're gonna roll up to come up. And roll back down. We're just gonna do 4 or 5 of these to warm up your core. Anytime we're trying to isolate a muscle, which is the glutes here, you wanna make sure that the stabilizing muscles are warm first, because it takes a lot to stabilize the pelvis to isolate the glute muscles. So we wanna make sure that those muscles are nice and warm. And then you wanna be careful here. The more your pelvis moves, the more you're gonna take this work into your back. And you don't wanna grip and grab from your hip flexors. You wanna make sure that you're lifting and lowering from those low belly muscles. And we'll just do one more here. We'll come back down. And then your feet are gonna leave the piece of furniture, or Grant's gonna lose the strap, and just take your legs bent and on the mat. From here, you're gonna walk your inner arches of your feet together, but keep the pads of your feet down on the mat. We're gonna open up your legs slightly wider than hip distance apart. So for Grant, that's about shoulder width apart. And then from here, we're gonna tuck your pelvis and roll into a pelvic curl. Your pelvic curl is not very high. So most people will do a bridge in the gym, and that bottom lift or that bridge is pretty high. When you do that, you have a tendency to arch your back, and all this lovely work that should stretch your low back is gonna start to work it. So you don't wanna do that. Keep the ribs drawing in. It should feel like you're in a C curve or a scoop through your spine. From here, we're gonna go into 60 pulses. So you're gonna start to lower and lift your hips, not very much. You're about a fist distance between your bottom and the mat, and then you're gonna stay there pretty much the entire time. As you get tired, the ribs are gonna start to flare and lift up, and that's gonna move the energy of your work down behind your knees, and we don't wanna feel that. So we wanna feel this first in your inner thighs, second in your glutes, and then maybe at the top part of your hamstring, but not that hamstring down to your knee. We wanna feel the belly of the hamstring going up to the booty. So everything we do should start from the center of the body and work out toward the limbs, so we don't wanna feel your calves, your feet, or behind your knees here. Grant's at about 20, we've got 40 more to go. And that's halfway there. Make sure you're breathing. And that's 40. I'm gonna open his legs up just a little bit more, so he's got 20 more to go. And he's got 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good, he's gonna roll back down, and we're gonna go straight into the next one. Your legs are gonna go to parallel on this one. So parallel leg position, no external rotation. You're gonna take your left leg up to tabletop and extend your left leg to the ceiling. You're gonna really work for that extension of that leg from the hamstring here. And then we're gonna go into little lifts, up an inch, down an inch, tucking your pelvis and lifting at the same time. This is all right side glute, right side hamstring. Because we spent so much time in that external rotation, you'll still feel that inner thigh, and that's great. Your inner thigh is a stabilizer that should always be on. We don't always feel it. And one more. Good, we're gonna bend your left leg, take it down to the mat, extend your right leg to the ceiling. Little lifts, up an inch, down an inch. You wanna make sure that your hips are straight across, like a level here. So Grant's gonna bring that right hip up, and he's gonna do that by engaging his right side oblique, turning his left side booty on a little bit more. That will protect his back. When you do these and your hips are in an offset position, that goes into your back. We don't wanna do that. And we'll do one more set of those. Bend your right leg, take it down, lift your left leg, and back to 10 little pulses. Up an inch, down an inch, pretty small here. Don't lift to the point that your hips start to shift either, so it's really small, even smaller than that. Make sure you're breathing. Good, bend your left leg, take the right leg back up, 10 more little pulses, up an inch, down an inch, and we're gonna bring that right hip up for you, left hip down, Make sure when you go to lift that hip, it's not bringing the hip toward the rib. That's even worse for your back. So you want to lift the hip upward toward the ceiling, but you don't want to shift it toward the rib cage. And we'll take it down. Bend your right leg. We're going to go into a figure 4 stretch with your left leg over your right. And we're going to go back to little pulses here. Up an inch, down an inch. And we're going to make sure that those hips are square and even. When you open up that femur bone for that figure 4 stretch, don't take the pelvis and shift it with it. So you want to make sure that your hips are square even first. And then if you can bring that thigh bone down, you can. But if it pulls your hip with you, you just don't open it up quite that far. Last one, we're just doing 10 of each of these. We'll take your left leg down, cross your right leg over your left, and we'll go up and down for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. We're going to come down from there. We're going to lay down on your right hip. We're going to stack your knees on top of each other so legs are at tabletop. And then you can just extend your right arm all the way out, or you can bend your arm and take your hand right underneath your ear. We're going to pull your legs at tabletop. So your knees and your hips are going to be aligned, and then your feet and your knees are aligned. We're going to go into clams first, so we'll keep the heels glued together. We're going to lift and lower that top knee. One thing that I love to do at home for these is to put a cup right on the side of my hip, especially when somebody's not there to spot me and make sure that I'm in the right position. You want to make sure that your left oblique is firing and that your hips stay stacked on top of each other. And if you put a cup here, a little paper cup, when your pelvis rolls out, the cup's going to fall down. So it'll tell you when that pelvis is moving, and it'll give you that feedback without actually having somebody else's eyes on your body. We're going to go into fire hydrants. So now we're going to take the foot up with the knee, lift and lower. You want those hips to stay stacked right on top of each other. So we isolate the glute itself, not the bones of the hip. We don't want to go into the hip bones themselves. And worse, we don't want to go into that low back either. So where that pelvis is moving, the transverse abdominis isn't holding your pelvis still. And that's going to go into your back. So you want to be really careful about that. Sometimes you don't feel it to the next day. So use a prop that helps you figure that out. Now we're going to internally rotate. This one's a little bit awkward for some people. They don't exactly know how to get there. Now, remember, internal rotation comes from the head of the femur bone. When that happens, your knee will slightly drop down and your heel will lift up to the ceiling. But you don't want that internal rotation to come from your foot or your knee. You want it to come from your inner thigh and your outer glute muscles. For those of you who overuse that outer quad muscle, you should feel a stretch here. You're going to hold, and now we're going to rotate between those 2 points. So external rotation all the way to internal rotation, external to internal. This is where that cup becomes really important to make sure that you're not over-rotating through the pelvis. That cup would stay still. Rotation doesn't come from the knee or the foot. It comes from the head of the femur bone. So way up toward the top of the socket. If you just imagine moving the top inch of your femur bone, it kind of helps. Now we're going to keep that leg at a lifted position, parallel, and we're going to go into little circles. And reverse it, so 7 in each direction. 6, 5, don't think about moving from the knee, move from higher up. So if your leg, you only had an inch of that femur bone, use those muscles to start moving that. Good? All right, take the leg down. Now you're going to lift up into a side plank. So we're going to bring your right forearm underneath your body. You're going to pull your feet back so your feet and your hips are in the same line, but your legs are still bent. Your legs are still bent, so you're going to bend those knees in and just keep the heel back a little bit. All right, from here you're going to lift up from your oblique muscle. You're going to stay on your forearm. So you're in a side plank, and then you're going to lift your hips up by using your oblique muscles and your lat muscles. Good, and you're going to hold that. You're going to bring your head back. You're going to bring your shoulders back. You're going to square your body off, and you're going to keep that lift from your underside oblique. This one's a lot harder. We're going to do the same series that we just did, only in a much more challenging position. If you find that you start to feel your shoulder or your neck, you need more lat and oblique muscles. All right, and then you want to make sure that your head is straight up. So you're growing tall through the crown of the head, just like you would be in a side plank position. All right, from here, we're gonna go into clams. You're gonna lift and lower that top leg up and down. And let's just do 5 of these instead of 10. And 1, good. And then we're gonna go into fire hydrant. So we're gonna lift the whole leg up for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now it gets hard. We're gonna go into that internal rotation. Lift and lower for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're gonna alternate between parallel into external, all the way back into internal. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Only 3 circles here, 3 in each direction for 3, 2, and 1. Reverse it. 3, 2, and 1. Good. We're going to come on down and we're going to roll to the other side. So we're going to bring your head to this end, your feet over toward the reformer. And we're going to start by laying completely down on your left side. And extend your arm out underneath you, or you can bend that elbow and just rest your head into your hand. We're going to bend the legs, take them to tabletop. And we're thinking about that paper cup right on your hip. Now I'm here to watch Grant, so we don't need one for him, but it's helpful for you to use one at home. We're going to keep your heels glued together and lift and lower into clams. So you're going to lift that top knee up and down. Clams is probably the one that I see the most often that people go beyond their range of motion and they let that hip roll all the way back and forward. So I'll support Grant while we do this, but you can see now his whole torso is moving, his pelvis is moving. So you want to make sure that that's a lot more limited in your range of motion. And you're just lifting from this outer glute muscle to lift the femur bone up while the pelvis stays still. And then we'll go to fire hydrant. So we're doing 10 of each of these. Lift and lower the whole leg. We tend to overuse our quad muscles, so we're teaching your body in this series how to really isolate those glute muscles, which can really help keep you out of your low back. The glutes and the abdominals work as a pairing, those quads and back work as a pairing, and they get a little bossy, so you want to make sure that you're turning those quad muscles off. You're going to internally rotate now, and then up and down. Don't worry about how far your internal rotation is. We don't work on this one very often, and so your range of motion may be very small. Don't overdo it. You don't want to feel this in your knee. You shouldn't feel any pull down the outside of that right leg. The only thing we're feeling here is this outer glute, and then we're wrapping that into the inside of the glute in your inner thigh. And then we'll rotate among those 3 points. So we go from external rotation all the way to internal rotation. Again, a place that I see the pelvis move a lot here. So keep that cup sitting right on your hip. Don't let it move. Good. 8, we've got 2 more. And 9. 1 more full rotation. And then we'll go back to parallel into fire hydrant, little circles. We're going to go 7 here. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's reverse the direction. As you get tired, that knee, that foot like to take over, and so you take all of that energy and you start the motion from here. Don't let that happen. Fight for that glute to stay on the entire time. Good, we're gonna take that leg down. The second side is always worse. I like to save my right side for second because it's stronger. I start with my weak side. The second side, your stabilizer becomes your mover becomes your stabilizer, and so it's just a lot more work. All right, so now we're gonna come to that forearm plank position. We're gonna keep those knees stacked on top of each other. Lift the booty off the mat from your obliques. Bring your head back in line with your spine. And then again, remember to grow tall through the crown of the head. You like to turn and look at your body here. Don't do that. It puts your head in the wrong position. I know, we're holding here. And let's start with clams. We're going up and down. Just 5 here. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Let's go into fire hydrants. We'll lift the whole leg up for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Internal rotation. 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Now we rotate from internal rotation to external rotation. 4, 5, 4, and 3. Almost there. 2, and 1. Circles, 3 in each direction. For 3, 2, and 1. Let's reverse it. 3, 2, and 1. Wonderful. Come on down. Now you can lay down on your back. We'll do a quick little figure 4 stretch and a pretzel stretch to end. And we'll cross that over. Again, make sure when you go into your figure 4 stretch that you don't push the femur bone away and hike that opposite hip up. You want to keep your hips square and even first and foremost. For me, I feel a pretty good stretch here. If you don't feel enough of a stretch, you can reach underneath the left hamstring, pull that left hamstring off the mat and in toward the body to create a little deeper stretch. And we're gonna hold this stretch for another 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. We're gonna cross over at the knees. Hold onto the shins, pull the shins in toward your body. If you need to lift into an ab curl, that's fine. I prefer you to lift your torso to your legs than to pull your pelvis in toward your chest and pull the hips off the mat. So keep those hips down and heavy onto the mat and bring your body upright into an ab curl to stretch a little bit more. And then really pull those legs inward toward the body and slightly apart, and that will hit that right glute. From here, we'll switch. We're gonna take the legs down. Grant can lie back down. We'll go into a figure 4 stretch first. We wanna open up the collarbones, let the heart rate come down here, and just lengthen the muscles out that we just intentionally tightened. And we'll hold for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Cross over for that pretzel stretch. Hold onto the shins, bring them into the body. Remember, you lift toward your legs. Don't let the pelvis come off the mat here. Keep that tailbone heavy and down. Those obliques are still on, the transverse is still on. And then pull the legs into the body and slightly apart. You get a little bit of an ab workout just for this stretch. Good. And then if you feel like you need to stretch anything else, stretch those hamstrings, or if you worked those quads a little bit, you should know they should have stayed quiet. You are more than welcome to stretch them out. If your low back hurts, take your knees into your chest, give yourself a little hug like Grant did, and kind of shift your legs side to side. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Take care.